Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar with called Copilot in Action. We're very fortunate today to have Kirsty McGrath with us. She's an 8-time winner of the Microsoft MVP Award for Microsoft 365 and Copilot, and she's also the founder of Australia's Microsoft 365 Adoption User Group. And she's a keynote speaker, and you'll see today what a fantastic speaker she is. She's an author, she's a blogger, she's an educator, she's Mrs. Everything, and she's also a content creator. And if there's some person that knows about Microsoft Copilot, it is definitely Kirsty. And so it's a great pleasure to have her with us today. And without further ado, I'm going to pass over to her, and she can kick it off.
Thank you for that, Gavin. We're getting ourselves underway. Hopefully you're ready. Throw those sneakers on because we've got a lot to go through in this particular session. So thank you everyone for being here. I think, one of the core things that we will kind of go in just to get ourselves started, a chat is actually available for you. So feel free to put questions in there. There's also the more formal Q&A. You can even ask anonymous questions if you wish through. I won't be necessarily going through a lot of the questions. I'll try maybe at the very end, but the team is actually going to be here and available for you to answer the questions either today or they'll reach out to you afterwards if it's a little bit more complex. At any point, please feel free to turn on closed captions. They're available there. Maybe English is not your first language, considering we're going hard and fast for the next hour, or if you need to for any disability reasons, then there is the little 3 ellipsis buttons. You just go language and speech and go show live captions in whatever particular language you prefer to have it in. We are going to be going through a little bit about the kind of the why. Then I'm going to go into the taxonomy, sort of that, what goes into a prompt to make it a little bit easier. Around about half the session is going to be some Copilot demos, and then where can you find some further information. I think one of the core things, though, that we're actually finding with the likes of AI is it is moving really fast. When you think about it, when it comes to generative AI, in the space of 3 months, it had hit 100 million users. That's the fastest growing in technology that we've actually previously seen. However, our adaptability, not as great. Hence why I'm kind of here to help you out. I'm an adoption consultant. So for me, it's all about not leaving the user behind in this journey. Now, we're often very excited about what's coming, but what does it actually mean to us? And how do we kind of bridge that gap? So a few things, and getting to understand some of the, the benefits, I suppose, of what we're trying to do. More often than not, those short, sharp pilots that you might have done in the past, you might have spent 2-3 weeks or even 4 weeks going through the pilot, but it takes a little bit longer because with using AI and getting involved, one, it's a button that you kind of don't have to push, and you have to think about it a little bit more, and you have to understand also things like your prompting. So if I go in and I'm looking at it, we've got this tipping point, the 11 by 11. So that 11 by 11 rules is it takes about 11 minutes of time savings for most people to feel that AI is useful. So if we're thinking about that, and what does useful really actually mean, is things like it's that breakthrough moment where you've got kind of 4 key areas of workplace productivity, work-life balance, attending fewer meetings. So a couple of these things actually go, it's taken about that long for me to feel some real value and around about 11 minutes of time savings. Now, on average, they've actually found that it's about 40 minutes a week is the average across all of the roles. This is from a frontline worker who very rarely uses it right through to the corporate. So 14 minutes. It generally will be around about, I'd say around about 4 minutes, and you start to see a return on your investment easily within those sort of 4 to 5 minutes. So 14 minutes of the week, you're going to certainly get some value back out of that. So from here, if we start to think about that, then I flow over into the office side of things because that's all roles. If we get to the office, it's around an hour per day. And if you're in more of that senior leadership and support type role, it's around about 3 to 5 hours a day. Now, I know I certainly get way more than that. I've had it where I've actually managed to save 6 days worth of work. I did it in 1 day. So that was a savings of 5 days in just that 1 week, effectively. So, it happens all of the time because I love where it bridges some of the gaps in my thinking, or it starts me off from a a good base point. And I'm going to talk about some of the different ways that I actually use it to give you an idea along the way. So for an end user, and if you're in the SMB space, then the average projected ROI 353%. Now that's pretty high. But if even I've got the lowest end of 132%, you're looking at still some significant savings. Now all these figures are, yeah, they're great, but I like to live in the people side of the world. That's where I'm very heavily focused. So if I look at things like the increase in revenue, operating costs, in terms of reduction and the onboarding, and I look at all of these figures, for me, I think about the people, and for me, that's about retaining staff as well, because it's very expensive to actually lose someone inside a business. So if I've got happy employees, then they're focused on their core work. So what we want to do is try and get them back in to that higher value work where they feel they can get their core job done. That to me is really important. And then often we have people that, well, they're wanting to stay because they're a little bit more focused. So if I start to think about where am I going to find Copilot in the ecosystem, and you can see behind me this side, I've actually got my infographic. Its nickname, it's a bit of a moniker, is called the Wheel of Fortune. And I start to have a look at where are you going to find Copilot? Now, Microsoft stopped counting after about 96 endpoints. There's so many places you can go to find Copilot. However, everywhere that you kind of see all these icons running all the way around is where you're going to find Copilot in the ecosystem. Let me just rub all that messy out. Okay, so I've got it all over the place. Now, in the core applications, to get in and use it in a sort of everyday way, there's a few things that you might need to understand. And that's about the art of the prompt. Because I can't get it to do that. Or we have assumptions that AI can do things that it may not have got to that point just yet. And when you think about it, in the scheme of technology, it is a bit of a baby. AI has been around for a really long time, but generative AI is new and getting it to do the things that we want it to do. So the art of the prompt. We've been caught in this search engine mindset now for a really long time. And that search engine mindset is we go to our browser and we put in a couple of words and then we get hundreds of thousands of responses and we kind of click through the various links to try and find the information and reading. Whereas now it's about surfacing information. And that means having a conversation and things that are prompts that are a little different in terms of what we class then as our natural language. So this is a whole sentence instead of just a few words. So if I was looking at, I'm off to Tokyo, for example, I've got a holiday coming up. In the past, I would have just said top 10 attractions in Tokyo. Whereas now I've got a whole different type of conversation happening with generative AI. So for example, if I say to you, and you typed into chat for me, how do you like your coffee? Give me a few ideas, guys. How do you actually like your coffee? What are the things that you like when it comes to a coffee? Give me a few types of ways that you like coffee. Yeah. Let's just see. Here's a couple there. Keeping an eye out on coffees. Gonna have anyone give me what they like in their coffee in chat? No one wants to talk to me today. Okay. Oh, we got a double espresso. Okay. So if I'm going in and I'm asking for a coffee or I'm asking for a cup of tea, we got a latte, we got a few others that are slowly coming in. So if I go, say I'm going up for the latte, they're going to start asking you different questions. Now I could go, I want a perfect prompt. So say it's tea for me. And that perfect prompt might be, I walk in, and if I was doing the search engine mindset, I'd walk up and go, I'd like a cup of tea, and sat down. And they kind of go, okay, she's staying. So I gather she's having her tea here. I'll just give her a black tea to stay here. They have no idea. Okay, so it's very generic. But if I walked up and said, I want an English breakfast, small cup, I want it to go, I want light milk in it, please, I want one sugar, I want to make sure my milk is cold, it could be, what are all the things to make a perfect prompt would be that huge instruction that you might actually give your barista when it comes to, a double espresso or a latte. Though with the latte even, it's like, how big a latte do you want? Do you want it just here or do you want it to go? Okay, so there's a back and forward conversation conversation. This is getting into the generative AI, the back forward. And I want you to think about your, Copilot. It's there to support you. And it's a little bit like your intern or grad in the office. You wouldn't walk up to them and say, can you create that presentation for tomorrow, and walk away. You'd actually give them some extensive information. Well, who is it for, and where they're going to find previous information, and what, is the questions. Okay. So what are you going to answer to get them to do what you want them to do? So let's dive into the taxonomy, because I've got all of that, but there's so much that goes into it. So the taxonomy focuses on all sorts of things. Now, this is just some of them to give you a bit of an idea, and I'm going to dive through it for you. So let's start with the first one, megaverbs. So Microsoft gives you lots of different verbs to be able to work with. And those verbs you'll see as part of your prompt. So we'll give you a suggestion in the prompt gallery as to it. And it's going to be focused on something in particular. Or you've got a drop down of the different things like create or generate or prepare. The things that are in bold are the ones that you're going to see all over the place. But there's like over 190 action verbs, things that you could pick and choose from. So for example, I use it all the time. I like to use paraphrase, because I've got all my meeting notes that it's actually taken. And as part of that, I say, can you please paraphrase those, our conversation to put into an email? Okay, sure, I can do that for you. So lots of then. Then we get into our content type sources. You can actually go / I want this file, or this meeting, or this person, or you can just go instead. So you go look at all of my comms. So if you're looking at all, it recognizes all. I don't need to say all email. I can just say email, because it says, okay, I'm going to go look at email. Everything in my email. I could put all in front, but it generally understands email. Unless you go, I want a very specific email / focus on that one there in particular, or that particular person. Or look at all my meetings. So these are all words that you can use. I don't even need to use the full word communications. It understands things like some of the acronyms or the way that we shorten a lot of our words. Or you could say a template / use this as a template. What about the models and theories and concepts? What I particularly love is it understands best practice. It understands what it should look like, and it understands all the models and concepts. So for example, I live in, change, communications and training. So for me, I'm going to focus on things like the ADKAR model when it comes to ProSci, or it will be the ADDI theory around training, or I generally tend to use the agile methodology. So I will say, I'm trying to build out a document, and can you focus on, I'm doing it based on the ProSci, here's my business strategy for my change plan. I've got this, use this document, and make sure it adheres to, am I missing anything? It will actually go through and it understands all those theories and concepts, or create me a SWOT analysis, or create me. Okay, it gets it, and it gets what's good. It's got access to the wide world of all of the fabulous information out there around what does it look like when it's good. Now, the type of documents. There are so many types of templates, and you might even have your own templates that you're working with. It does understand if you're trying to do a project plan or create some frequently asked questions, which I do all the time. I will, for example, on YouTube, Microsoft have got their Ask Me Anything sessions, and you've got the transcript. Often I'll copy and paste that transcript, and I'll just go, can you create me some FAQs off the back of all of the, Ask Me Anything questions? So what was actually asked questions, so that I can use those to put onto maybe a client SharePoint site. And I've just got it all built for me. Doesn't mean I haven't actually watched necessarily the video or got my head around it, or it just is a really fast way for me to be able to do something like an FAQ. And I use step-by-step all of the time, because I'm constantly creating training contents or guides or along those lines. Can you give me a quick 1, 2, 3 step-by-step on how to do this? Let alone examples, or I'm not quite sure how to do that. So all these document types really help me. You could even go into Office and go File New, and you've got all those templates that Microsoft actually provide for you, and start to have a look through what are the things you could ask for. Quick and easy. There are so many output formats. You may not be aware, but I could do things like word clouds. I have surveys I do all of the time, so I'm often building out a word cloud for a client. But there are quizzes I create because I do all sorts of different surveys or quizzes or training quizzes. For example, creating emails. I've got coding, I've got tables, I've got markdown formatting. Things like I want a checked or an unchecked list, so tick boxes. Or can you create me a table with these columns? No, or these headings that understands either or. So all this markdown formatting. Then there's all the social media side of things. If it was an X post, Twitter, whatever, X, Itter, everyone calls it all sorts of different things these days, it gets that it only has so many characters, and you can build out whole social media campaigns should you need to, based on, a particular program that you've actually got in place or an event that you're running. So many things you could do. When it comes to pictures, it will actually understand if you say something like claymation, and I go, well, can you create me a claymation type picture? It will go, okay. Now, a claymation picture, if you're not aware, is like, Wallace and Gromit or Gumby or, there's a Pingu, all those kind of claymation type moving action sort of pieces. You could also go, can you actually create me something like the Muppets or Pingu, or you could actually use the movie as a reference. It would get all of that. So for example, up the very top here, I loaded a picture, so I can come in, you can choose the different type of pictures. I loaded my picture and said, can you turn me into a Muppet with Sydney in the background? So I've got the Opera House, because I'm in Sydney, that's where I'm based. So for me, these are sorts of things that I do all the time off the back of and have a bit of fun with it. Now when it comes to video production, on the video production side of things, using Clipchamp, it's very focused on the more formal functionality of creating a video. So it will go editing type process, not I'm generating the whole video for you. It will give you sound, it'll give you pictures, it'll give you video animation. It's all based on stock art at this point. Okay, so that's its focus for video. Now they're tones. Microsoft give you lots of tones. It will go casual, formal, neutral, informal, direct, or do it as a poem, for example, as an output. It's got all these different tones, and there's 4 tonal dimensions with lots of different potential tones. You don't have to stick to those. Have a think about what makes you you when it comes to a tone. So for me, I like saying I like the enthusiastic and inspirational, because this is kind of me, 24/7. Everyone goes, where's the kind of dial button to dial it down maybe? I said, no. That's what I'm like. I'm not neurospicy at all, so have a little bit of fun with it. So this is what I like to sort of have as a tone. But there are times when, maybe I'm not happy on a particular project, and, I've written up an email, and often I would have stepped away in the past for an hour and come back and had a read of it going, is that actually going to be a bit clipped? Or so I might say I was actually angry when I was writing this. Not that it would ever come across as a rule, but you could say I wasn't particularly happy. I still needed to be assertive. I still need to understand that this is not the right way to go. Can you do it based on a different, you could say what tone you want, okay? Now, on terms of the tonal, there's another one. It's called inclusive modifiers. And this gets really into the people side of things. So if you want things to become a little bit more flowery, I suppose. I want to go a little bit more flowery. It is as in a flower, W-E-R, a bit more flowery. Then it will be getting into that real people type tone. Make sure that it's actually inclusive, that my people, maybe I'm the organizer of, or I'm the CEO, I'm an executive, and I'm going, I want my people to feel like they're actually valued. I want it in a genuine and authentic type tone. It's going to really shift, because the Microsoft standard tone is formal and professional. So that's the way it's always going to come out unless you start shifting it into your tone. Now the roles and personas, so many different roles and personas. Now these are some of the corporate ones that are fairly stock standard in terms of, business functions or the likes. But it may be that you're being the chef, for example. And I've put chef in there because my hobby is cake decorating. I spend a lot of time doing some pretty hardcore cake decorating. So I often will go, I'm actually the chef. Can you give me a step-by-step module on tempering chocolate and how to actually fix it, because I want some understanding, and do that in PowerPoint. So agent experience. Now, I don't really love the, can you make this so that it is understandable for the grade 5er? Because if I'm actually training or teaching, some executives and they're novices, that is very different. Or I've got a room full of 60, 65-year-olds that I'm going to be educating, and they're in the aged care industry. They're fabulous in terms of what they're doing. They're not like a grade fiver. They're mature. I have a mature audience, but they are novice in this topic. That's going to give me a very, very different output in my tone. Times and ranges, you can be either very specific right through to really general. It understands the quarters and fiscal quarters. And if you have information in Excel and it goes, for example, October, November, December, it's immediately going to go, okay, you got a quarter there. Let me give you a sum based on the quarter. And I'll show you that as a demo because it gets it. Okay, so it will understand patterns. And you can be very specific in terms of the patterns that you might want as well. There are over 100 default languages and 26 core languages. It understands a lot of those variants as well. You can ask it to convert it over to, for example, maybe you're presenting to Japan or China, or, with us often being in the APAC region. You could get it to convert your presentation. It does it really fast and quite accurate. I work with MVPs all over the globe, and we're often doing this and working together and presenting all over the place. Especially I do a lot with Paris and Japan. Who would have thought? So they are there as variants. However, to take note, for Australia, it's often best to go UK English. I find it gives you better results on UK English than the Australian. Australian English is fairly new. In the past, just recently, it literally went throw a shrimp on the Barbie, mate. It went very awkward as put this in Australian English. Okay, so it went slang. Okay. Yes, you certainly will get a copy of the slides. There's lots of different computer languages and scripts. So we've got all the coding, and I don't personally get into a lot of the coding. However, I do use Python. I don't have to know necessarily Python, but Excel, for example, when it's doing deep analysis, it is flipping over and doing Python and using coding. So sometimes I will, instead of putting in deeper analysis, I go, can you use Python for deeper analysis? And it will just jump straight to deeper analysis. So I do love that. Didacting and redacting. If you're in the finance or accounting space, or maybe you're in a particular area, or you've got things like document metadata, can you please strip it? Do that didact or redact, and make sure that there's no PII, that personally identifiable information, before you send out that email. So you haven't got banking details or a credit card or whatever the case may be. I particularly love demonstration data because I will say, for example, can you also give me examples of that to try and help me work through that step by step? Because I kind of go, I need a bit of an understanding of how to do it. And effectively, when you're creating these documents and you're kind of asking it from a starting point, it's effectively building you demo data to build from. It's like giving you this fundamental ground so that I'm not sitting there staring at a blank screen. That's what I love. I can go, okay, I've now got a 4-page document and I can start to fill in and give me a really good template for me to build out that project plan. Demo data. So then a prompt. Let's have a look at the prompt itself. When we get into the prompting, we're talking about what we class as the GCSE. The goal, the context, the source, and the expectation. Now, I'm building out that perfect prompt. Remember, we talked about getting a cup of tea or a coffee from the coffee shop. We could just do the one sentence, but then I could have a conversation and go back, forward, or I can get the perfect prompt. Up to you. So we go from the very basic. The basic would then be things like, if it was just a command-based prompt, then it will be, can you give me a list of interview questions? It might even, you just typed interview questions into your search. It's not a great prompt. You could start from there, and then Copilot will go, can I help you extend a little bit more and give you some potential other little prompts you could click on, which I'll show you. But if you're going in and you're starting to build based on that taxonomy I've just walked through, things like, I want to prepare for an interview that's actually coming up, and this is the role for this team, and I want a list of interview questions. This is a good one. But a better one would be, well, who are you? Because if I've got a senior associate role in the corporate comms team, for example, and you're the HR manager, that's very different than if you're actually the communications team manager or the corporate teams manager or the whatever it would come at it from a very different perspective. I want a list of appropriate questions, and I want to look prepared for the interview. So now I've got the goal and the context a little bit more. So I've extended it out. I'm going to get a better result because it's going to start being now a little bit more specific. Now, if I come up to best, what I've now got and where it's really shifting, a lot of it is still the same. However, now I'm doing this interview, and hang on a second, I've got the candidate's resume, / use their resume, use that very specific document, and here's the position because I've got it. I've done the advertisement for it on Seek or LinkedIn or wherever you've put it here with a / and you've got that document. Go and look at it. And now what I want is a comprehensive list of questions to determine the candidate's fit against the position. So what is the source and what is the expectation? So now it's going through both and getting a gap of what's the difference between them. Maybe they had a gap in their resume. You might even go a whole nother step and keep going on the prompt and what's the scenario. And the scenario is also, and I want to compare it against this particular interview or this other resume that I like. It's my number one candidate at the moment. Have a think about that whole process when you talk about process reengineering. Now, an excellent prompt, think about things like even the models. You could be doing CAR or STAR-based model, which is your behavioral-based type questions. What type of questions do you actually want to get the right output? All really important when it comes to building out a prompt, the GCSE. So I want you to think about your prompts a little differently. And if it's not working quite the way that you want it to, start tweaking and playing around with it. It is worth slowing down and working on it so that you can speed yourself up. So then which Copilot is that? Let's start to have a little bit of a play around. Let's go have a look. Get in and demo. So if I'm online, so I'm in a browser, so at the moment I'm just using Edge. So here we are, we've got Edge. Now I can actually see here, I'm going in a default straight to chat for m365.cloud.microsoft. Then I've got my / chat. So this is where it defaults when I go online and I'm logging into my account. Now, if I have a license, and you'll only see work and web, these toggle buttons up the top, if I actually have a license to Copilot. Otherwise, it's just the web-based. And even in the web-based, you can actually load one document up, but it's not actually grounded in your information. And using Microsoft Graph, there's a ton of fabulous content that it looks at when it comes to emails, meetings, chats, all the different types of conversations. It can be all of your documents, your SharePoints, your OneDrives, and it's just reasoning over all the different task management, you name it. It's all in there. So that's a little different because now I've got my license. You have got GPT-5, so that actually deep dives down. For web and the standard, if you're not choosing that, it's actually GPT 4.0 GG at the moment. So you can go higher in the processing. It will take longer because it's got a much deeper reasoning around it. Now you are fully covered. So whether you haven't got the license or you do have the license, then you're fully covered by enterprise data protection. So anything that you load in maintains and stays within your environment. Nothing is going outside. It's not training any particular, models. It's not out there in the wider world. You're covered. Okay. So from here, I am going to find chat in a variety of places. I've got it, one, through the browser. 2, and I'm using my Outlook New. So here it looks the same. I've got the same kind of content in here when it comes through Outlook. Or I can do the same thing when I go over into Microsoft Teams. I've got Copilot here as well. Now it is also flowing through now into all of your applications. So if you're over in Word, you'll be able to see your work web toggle button. It does look just a little bit different when I come in and I'm looking at Copilot and I'm over in an application. When I click on this particular button here, you'll see it gives you a little suitcase for work and it gives you the globe for the web. So I will find it right throughout the whole ecosystem. Now, this is only fairly new. It may not have dropped into your environment yet if you do have the license, by the way. So you can use that same functionality wherever you go. Now, if you want the most modern functionality, of course, it's going to be through the browser and using GPT 5.0. So what are the things that I might actually do? Now, I will regularly ask it different questions, or can you give me a bit of a help, or I want some questions asked in a step-by-step type format. So this one here, I'm going out to the web because I don't want to do it based on my internal data. So I want to hire someone for a small business and the field where people are getting paid. I can't actually pay that, but I want a strategy to hire someone. Can you ask me these questions one at a time to create that job description? So now what it's going to do is it gives me the ability to go back forward a bit more, and I can kind of direct it the way that I want it to go. I don't necessarily need to know the whole prompt. Really good if you're trying to help teenagers and in building their skills around interviewing, for example, and you can do it where it's talking out loud and with dictation they can talk to it. And here is my button to be able to load or attach other content. I don't need to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going out to the web and asking. So kicking off, sure, I'm hiring. Here's my question number one. What are the top 3 responsibilities? And it could be I type it in, or I could just go focus on compliance. See, there's a compliance and team support. So these 2 here, or I could even just go all of these or all of the above. And it goes, sure, I can actually put them all in. Great. Perfect. Bit of a Swiss Army knife. Excellent. Do they need to have all of these in terms of, what are the values you hold there? I'm going to go the proactive, detail orientated. So this is the generative AI, the back forward. Unlike our browser based, I would have just asked one question and got 100 responses. And we see this flowing through even when we do put in a search in our search engines. It's now giving you a bit of a summary and different links. It's flowing through already. Okay, so what can be offered instead, because I can't do that kind of salary? I might just go all of the above again. Very good. You're offering all of these things. I want they need to know 365 and QuickBooks, for example. Very good. Now, what it's doing is it's going out there, it's finding what does that role generally look like, because it's got a massive database of information out there from Seek and LinkedIn and Indeed, and knows kind of what that role would entail, hence why it's giving us these suggestions. Do I want them to do this? I'm open to mid-level candidates that want to step up. Okay, responsibilities, the things that we can do, full-time, part-time, flexible. It could be I just want to go part-time, flexible hours. Very good. So here's now, it's giving me a draft. What you do, who you are, ideal for, and the likes. Do you want it in a PDF? What do you want to do now with this as an output? Now, sometimes I'll go back through and I'll go, please remove all, iconography, those kind of picture iconographies. Or I could just go, I want to edit it in Pages. So Pages in the back end is Microsoft Loop. And now what I've got is a bit of a stepping stone before sending it to Word, because in here in Pages, I've kind of saved this information. I could work my way through, add some more in, edit, delete, make sure it's ready to go. I can share it with someone else and we can collaborate on this in real time together. So it's this collaborative component with Loop before I go and start creating the Word document. And I click on Word and it's going to give me a Word document and help me to download it or sit in your downloads. Okay, by default into OneDrive. So now I've got all that past history. And anything that I'm actually doing over on the left-hand side, I've got my past conversations, past pages that I've actually created. I've got different agents. Now, Microsoft have got some fabulous agents that are just pre-built there. Go and have a play around with the likes of the prompt coach. It will actually help you to build out decent prompts going, this is what I want to ask. Can you give me a really good prompt? Okay. So these are some pre-built in terms of even building your own out. We're not going to dive into that day. It's a big whole other topic. So on the work side of things, so they're web, going out to the web. Now on the work side of it, you can actually state, are you going to use the web as part of your work searching? Not only that, but in your settings, you can do some, this is some memory. These are the things about me and the things that I like and I want you to remember. You can do that in your settings in the browser. So on my work side of things, let's go. I want to, prepare or get ready. I get asked all the time, what's your availability like? So I will go through and I go, can you suggest some blocks of time over the next 6 business days? Because I want to run a webinar. Now, depending if you say between 9 and 5 and you've got a full day and it goes from, 8 a.m. block out to 7 p.m., sometimes it completely eliminates that day. So you might want to sort of not go between the particular hours. So it goes, here we go, no conflicts, these are suggestions. Okay, why is it currently? What does it look like? Okay, so I go, radio, can copy and paste that and send out. Now it also gives me all of my links, free sessions, what could I actually do? And it's given me a why it works here. I could ask it to please remove the why it works and adjust it around as needed. So with this is now grounded in my work. I could be going, summarize my comms over the last work day, list action items, put them in a column, and I want it to have, summaries and or RSVPs or meetings and what have I got coming up or get me ready. The great part about this is, sometimes I might go at the beginning of every day, I could come back in and go, can you schedule this every day? So I've actually got this because people ask me all the time. So it will go, this is what you've got going on over the next 6 days with the block, and I can just copy and paste it. I can also go, I want to save this prompt into my gallery because there is a whole prompting gallery to help and support you based on, there's those mega verbs. I've got the different types of, what's the persona and what are we going to do? Prompts that I can save based on saving and even prompts that I can share into Microsoft Teams. So I've got that history there for later. Prompt galleries, plenty there to be able to draw from. Let's go over to Outlook. Let's dive into the applications themselves. So here I am in Outlook. I've got an email here for our Cloud Made Simple session, and I might go, I want to reply now to the session. So I've got a reply button. I can go summarize by Copilot what's actually going on. I might have a big email trail, and it goes, this is a bit of a summary of what we've got so far. I could ask Copilot questions about it. I've got, summarize the file, because this is the file that's physically attached. Can you give me a bit of a summary? I could also come in, if I close it, it's not there anymore, but it is available up the top here. I could go open up chat, same thing again. Here's my chat, big day ahead. What do I want to ask? So it is all available there. If I'm going reply, it goes, okay, I'm ready to reply. Now I could jump away from that and instead come in, go, I'm going to reply. You'll see I've still got that button there. It's Alt-I. Slides received, thanks, will review, updates. I could just go, give me a short and friendly message. Now, anything that's in the square brackets is stuff that I would potentially type something in to extend it out and make sure it's got my personal tone and the extra things that I might want. But I'm just going to leave it as it is for now, just for time's sake. Thanks for the slides, they look great. I'll review them, let know any tweaks, look forward to catching up. Do I want to keep it? Discard it. Retry, shorter, longer, changing the tone. Remember there's all those tones that we talked about? So I go, make it a little longer. It's just slightly longer. If I didn't like it, I could go retry and give me something else. I could keep retrying. I go, okay, keep it. Now when I come back, I've also got the ability, whether I choose here or up the top, I can come back in and do coaching. I can fix it up a little later. What I like about Outlook New, this coaching will put things directly. It gives me suggestions. I like this. Sometimes I might do an email and I'm just getting my thoughts down. It can be really long and a bit too complex. And I might go, can you shorten this with bullet points or give me a bit of a, coaching. Now you'll see here, it doesn't have enough characters at this point for me to kind of play around too much with it right now. So I'd have to extend and give it a little bit more. But the coaching will give you all sorts of suggestions. So it could be, if I go in, make a little longer and just say, can you also put in a thank you regarding all the time spent on setup. And just go there. So I can add to it. Okay. Okay, look at that. It needs tweaking. Cheers, and working on a little bit more. Okay, so diving down. So from here, I'm ready to go, and I would just press send. I'm going to get rid of that one, discard. Now up the top here, I've also got a schedule with Copilot. So if I go schedule with Copilot, it's automatically going to drop in for me the attachment, an agenda, and a bit of a summary of the email that I can just drop in without me having to think too much about it. Who's it with? It'll give suggested times. I could go find a time and look at what actually works and go, I want it to be at 3, and then press send and send it off. I don't have to worry about it. It's like you're building out agendas, and so the cool part is now I don't have to worry about trying to copy and paste or attach files. It makes it a little bit easier for me. So this is kind of getting started. And underneath your settings in Outlook, you've also got some, which way do you like Copilot to work in Outlook? So you can go and dive in a little bit further in some of the advanced masterclasses. Let's go over into Word. So over here in Word, when I'm working on a particular document, now if I'm starting from a blank slate, which happens all the time, I will automatically get some, summaries, produce a summary of the webinar, please. So here is based on the PowerPoint. It's going to give me suggestions based on my work because Microsoft Graph is actually surfacing some fabulous content of what's actually going on here. So I go expand or produce a summary, or what do I want to draft? There's my plus button as well. Could be based on, what have I got going on, my files, my meetings, my emails, and it will give me a lot of my recent content. I'd give it a chance to come up. I'm not going to wait. So I could build from scratch the same thing. You'll get lots of different information over on the right-hand side, depending on work or web. I have all of my history and previous conversations, agents, and same sort of functionality you see online. No different. If I was building out a document, so if I was going to do something big and complex, let me show you something big and complex from scratch. So here we go. What do I want to draft? Are you ready? So let me copy. Do that again. Copy, copy, copy. A piece here. And copy and paste. So I'm a knowledge manager. I've got a long and detailed document that I've got to have written. It's in the third person. It's a how-to reference. I'm providing overviews. I want it in tables with top compliance issues. I want to answer all of these questions, things that are fairly stock standard that I would deal with all the time, that I've got in a particular template. And I want you to use what's the output look like, and also get any details from learn.microsoft.com because it's kind of the go-to place for all things of governance and compliance. So if I go kick that off and it's creating a draft, I get about a 4 to 5 page document, and it gives me a fundamental starting point that I could then start to drill down on and play around with as it builds out this rather large document. Okay. Now it will take a moment as it starts to build it all out. You see we're at page 2, compliance, issues, solutions. So recommended solutions, and it could be this might be the recommended, and maybe put in another column, this was the recommended, and this is what we're going to do. I could play around with this as needed. The roles and responsibilities. So now I don't have to kind of think too hard about where can I start from. I get that fundamental basics. So from here, let's have a look. It's done. Keep it. Maybe I go in compliance here and I go, I actually want that. And I can come back and go, can you visualize this as a table? So you got rewrite, structure, keep it, make it shorter, formal, suggestions. You could add more in, or go, let's do the visualize this as a table, please. Done. Keep it or replace it. So this keep it means keep both. Replace means replace what's there. You could go Can you just redo this? And it will give me 101, 102, 103, 104, depending on how many times I redo it. So I go replace. And now those bullet points are in a table to work with. So if I'm doing things like, so let's go into the fancy, the flowery type words, get into the real people kind of tones. So let me get some prompts for you on the people type tone. So I'm going to create an executive summary. Now, if I do it here, it's going to drop directly in. If I go over to the right-hand side and I go create the executive summary, and I'm going to do it over here and get myself started and go. Concise. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Would I like it in a certain format in the presentation? And I go, no, but I'm just going to now drop that in and I can add that into the doc. So let's come back here and go plus put in. And of course now it doesn't want to work for me. That's always the way. Let's go paste in. Welcome. Okay. Then down the very bottom, I'll come back in and I'll do a closing formal paragraph. So that one was I wanted kind of a formal, respectful, but welcoming and positive kind of opening. If I do it in here, it will drop directly in. So I've got insert the summary. I could have just done that up the top. So I go, I want a formal closing paragraph and I want to thank them for the hard work. I want them to, thank you for reading, working towards the strategy. I want to talk about unity and being a family and show that we care. So let's get into the deeper dive people times that you might actually, instead of the more formal report. Sincerely thank, efforts, investing, understanding. Remember that we're more than colleagues, we're family, united in purpose, driven, genuine care for one another, and we can achieve. Yay. Now, this is getting into really, kind of those deeper people type of tones. Now, you might not want that, and I could come back and adjust it. So I could fix that and go, can you please make this more formal? Up to you which way you want to go. But if you want to shift the tone, you've got to tell it how you want it to go. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of getting yourself started. In here, I could have said, I want to also create, you can see here, upload images, upload files, do it based on this template. I want it to look like something I've already created before. Or can you use the transcript outline that I've actually got? Or this is all the questions I have in my ProSci template. Can you help me to answer questions one at a time based on those questions? And it will then help to type it all in for you. So many ways you can go. So from there, let's go over and have a play with PowerPoint. So I'm going to get a new document. Now I can do it directly inside here, or I can, of course, open up over on the right-hand side and start building from over here too. You can see get started, image descriptions, brainstorming, see more. There's lots of different ones that I could go and play around with if I needed to and do it based on previous content. I could also do it here and go, I want to create a new presentation based on a particular file. Here is my previous files. Okay, and it can go, there's my corporate strategy. I was just creating that one. I could have started typing and it will do a search of your environment. It goes based on recent. You can go reference files and go. So guys, here we go. I'm going to generate these slides. I can go, hang on a second, I actually want another one. Add a topic. So, closing, thank you, and next steps as well. Drop extra in. You'll see it's referencing one. And one means that was that corporate document. So if you've got more than one, it will go, these are the topics that I've brought in from these different pieces of information, whether it be an Excel document, a PDF, or... there are also limitations in terms of how much and how big a document you can bring in. And we do all those in kind of the master classes where we really kind of dive down into each of the core applications. So from here, building out the presentation of what it might look like based on the Word document that I had there. Now, it wasn't a particularly big Word document, by the way. It's going to look at it. It's going to reduce down a lot of the words. It's going to simplify what's on the page. A lot of people get a little frightened of sometimes PowerPoint, not knowing how to actually build something out. It's using just that pre-built template. And I could use my own templates, and there are rules around, templates and working with Copilot. So from here, I can go in and start to have a look. Now, down the bottom, it's actually bringing in the information from your Word document and putting it into notes. So this is the overview. It could be, here's my agenda. If I didn't like its look and feel, Copilot has design suggestions. It will go through and give you some different potential design suggestions. Now, this one was based on just a standard template, and you might then go insert a picture from. Okay? Or you could ask it to suggest some pictures. Or maybe I go, can you create me? Okay, I can build out my own pictures. So, for example, let's have a look. Which one will I go? Generate. Here we go. I'm going to do this one. So I can go generate an image of a high performance team that has computers in front of them. Let's just choose that one. So I'll go, sure, I can build that out. Create an image for me. Something that I can drop in. And it's actually using, Microsoft Designer and Microsoft Create to do all of that. So give it a chance. So I'm doing this sort of thing all the time where I'll be, creating a very specific type of image. I might put in the, what's the CMYK, like the colors, the hex, or I might go, can you make sure that it's a certain background, or I want it to look like this, and I can get quite complex sometimes in my pictures as to what I actually want. So that's always that, it'll give you the output based on the prompt. Now, I did a very, very basic prompt to give you a bit of an idea as it starts to design that out. Give it a chance. I'm going to let it do its thing. Might move on. So I could also say, can you add in more speaker notes for me? Maybe I wanted this instead of being words, maybe I wanted to be some graphics. And if that's the case, because it's going to focus on the whole of the page at this point, a lot of the times what I do is I go over into a new presentation and I might just put those words in here and get my design suggestions, and I'll just do it in a blank document. And then I'm going to get all my different types of graphics of what I could do or play around with. So if I liked that, I could then copy that back over into my presentation. It's a bit of a workaround, okay, to be able to help you focus on the content rather than the page. Let's go over now into Excel. Has it finished its image? Looks like it has. Suggest where, there it is, and I have my image to drop in. To drop it. So, Excel. Let's come over to Excel. Excel. So when I open Excel, and the first time I go to work with it, whether it's Copilot or not, you'll see if I go chat with Copilot, it's going to want you to save it to the cloud. Excel will want it in the cloud. So first and foremost, get it over to the cloud. From there, once I've got my information, so say in here, I'm going to start sort of building out. I could choose and go suggest a formula column. Now it will jump over to the right hand side and we'll start giving some suggestions. Now this is the one I was talking about where it goes October, November, December. By default, of course, it's going to go, I want to summarize. It's the main first thing that people go to is create a sum column. So it will go through, it will suggest a sum column, and you can just add it in. Generating the formula. So it will actually help you. It'll build out formulas. I use it a lot to go things like, can you divide this column? It's got first name and last name. Can you make them so that they're two separate columns for first name and last name? It'll do it for you. Or help me to build out a column for lookups, a formula for lookups. It will do all of that. So it'll give you suggested, and I can just go insert that particular quarter total. I also like doing things like, can you suggest some conditional formatting? More often than not, conditional formatting, a lot of people might be familiar with conditional formatting, and if I'm highlighting, it'll go based on a cell. It's not doing a whole of the row. What I like about this is I can do, can you highlight the whole row, and it gets that formula for you and just drops it in. Now, I could have typed in highlight the cells based on anything that's over, 2.5 million, for example, and I can go then apply it, and it will drop that in. You can say bold the first column, help me build out pivot tables, help me to build out the charts. Can you give me some analysis of this information? So it's now dropped that in. In the analysis, if I go, can you give me some deeper analysis, or even just general analysis? So if I go deeper analysis, this is actually using Python, and it will start to then really dive in. So as part of that analysis, there's not a lot of information there. And not only that, but it won't reason over the fact that this here, the figure, it's really low. But that's actually because it's a brand new division. Now, it's not going to know that. It takes people to be engaged and tell it kind of a little bit around what's your thinking. So it might do analysis, but that analysis, it always takes that human component. So it will build out, you'll see here, PY. It will tell you a little bit, some of the things that it can actually see, the correlation that might be going on, or even potentially causation. You need to maybe put the causation in. So many ways that we can actually work and dive down. Gives you a little bit of an idea. Generating charts, I could even copy and paste that just into the browser and go, can you create me a chart with this? And it'll do a picture. We could do all sorts of stuff. If it's a lot more complex, what I particularly like, so say if I was doing some Python analysis, this was some survey results. And in column M, it was the survey went out and said, what applications do you want to learn more about? It was an open question in the survey. And I've gone, that makes it really hard for me to find how many times did they mention Teams. So I can actually use Python for some deeper analysis and as part of my, functionality. And it will then flow through as part of that deeper analysis. And based on a history, start to say how frequently it was actually mentioned and other particular tech. So that kind of a prompt, I would then go in and say things like, I want to do some deep analysis and give me an idea in this column how many times Microsoft technology was actually mentioned, and give me some outliers kind of thing that you could go into a whole heap of depth for your data. Now quickly on last thing on terms of Microsoft Teams. If it's chat, if I'm dealing with chats or channels, for example, I've typed something in, I can then help it to rewrite or adjust the tone. It's a quick and easy way to be able to work. I've had ones previously, for example, in my meetings where I can go back into kind of past details and recaps of my meeting. So I've got all my different recaps. So it gives me some AI meeting notes. And if I go back to, some of the previous ones, for example, I can ask. It's a recurring meeting. I can go, give me some Copilot information. There was one where we were working on a panel and what are the type of questions, and Paul had said, I think we should ask them this. And instead of me going, hang on a second, what did you say? I used Copilot to go, can you just paraphrase what he said? And I went, yeah, sure, here's what he actually said. And I could use then that as a question. And I do recap all the time. And can you create me an email based off recap? And my recap will also be, and any follow-up tasks and action items, things that we actually need to do based on our conversation. Now, when we're diving in, it's a couple of minutes prior to the end. It will start giving you recommendations around summarizing a recap. Or when you first join a meeting, if you're late to join a meeting, it goes, would you like a recap so far? And it will even give you screenshots of things that you might have actually missed in that journey. So I particularly love using AI in my meetings to ask questions or give me some ideas, or what could I get in and do as part of this particular program. So the main thing is go be curious. Go test and refine, because where you start from might not be where you finish, and as you build and get more familiar with your prompts, and if it's not working, they might just need to kind of repitch it, because Copilot is there. It's actually there to work alongside you. It's not autopilot. So one, double check your facts, make sure it's not kind of hallucinating on you for whatever. Review, make sure that those references are the right information, and fix it. Go and have some fun, because there's some fabulous things that you can actually do to reduce down the amount of time, get you focused back on your core work. I've put in lots of further information for you in the presentation, which will actually be provided for you by the team as part of a bit of a nurture series. But remember, the true power of this lies with you going and having a play. There are so many scenarios and so many processes that could be, re-engineered, whether it's just using Power Automate or AI and Power Automate together. There's lots you could do. I'm offering a half day workshop or a promptathon or doing some training. And if you book before the end of October, you'll get 15% off. All my information is available for you, but if you need to, please reach out to your Cloud Made Simple team, and I will hand back over to Gavin to close out the session.
Thank you very much, Christy. That was absolutely magnificent, and we certainly all learned a lot. I certainly did. It was just such a great session. Also from Cloud Made Simple, we've got some special offers. To get the best out of Copilot, you also need to have some pretty good security in the back end. So as a part of that, we provide a AI readiness assessment. So to go through to make sure you got all the security elements in place. So we'll offer that, and also 20% off our AI/automation consultation. So if there's processes that you want automated, certainly have a chat to us, and we can work with you to get AI to help you with that and to make your business more efficient. So thank you so much for attending. It was a great session. Thanks again, Christy, for that, and Kirsty, sorry, and yeah, and good luck for everybody going forward using Copilot. And just feel free to reach out at any time.
Thanks, Rose, and thanks for having me here, and I hope you all enjoyed.
No worries. Thanks very much.